Hi and welcome to the first video in our SUPboarder Wing Foil series. We're really excited to finally bring you these videos on SUPboarder, as many of you have requested these technique videos from us since we started winging back in the summer of 2019. Now there's lots of beginner videos out there already telling you the basics of winging and wing foiling. Our videos will be focusing on what appear to be the main stumbling blocks. So whether you're totally new to wing foiling and you're yet to hit the water, or you've already committed and got your own gear but are struggling, we hope these videos will be really useful. What we're going to cover in this series is, in part one, we're going to be talking about the foil and how it works under your feet and how to control it when you start to fly. With part two, we're going to be talking about getting flying and staying flying in those lighter winds. And in part three, we're going to be doing foiling jibes and going switch stands. So let's talk about the foil and how it works under your feet and how you can best control it when you start to fly. So before we dive into getting you flying across the water, I actually think the most important thing when we've taught people is really getting an understanding of how the foil is working under your feet. If you can understand that, you are going to be able to react and trim that foil much more efficiently and just really understand how the whole process is working. So let's start off by taking a closer look at the foil. Now the foil is made up with a few things. You have a front wing, you have a back wing or stabilizer, you have a main fuselage, and you have a mast which attaches to your board. Now when I'm explaining about how this works under the water, I'm not going to be doing any technical talking here. You've got to straight away get your head into you are flying. You're not surfing, you're not doing any of the board sports, you are flying. So you've got to think about you as the controller of an airplane. The airplane gathers speed down the runway and then it tilts back and it produces lift and goes up into the air. When it's at the desired height, the airplane flattens off and flies flat. The airplane doesn't fly along like this the whole time, and it doesn't fly along like this, so it's trimmed nice and flat. The airplane, just like our foils, have back tail wings or stabilizers, and they work very much in the same way, as the front foil and the back foil are working almost against each other to making sure the airplane or the foil stays straight and true and doesn't skew off and go any funny different directions. And of course, instead of you being a pilot with controls and a lever, you're going to be doing this all with your balance and your board, trimming your weight to make this foil come out of the water so you can start to fly. Okay, so now let's go and get on the water. Maybe it's your first time, or maybe you've had a few goes before. This is what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on doing 2 or 3 runs at the start and not even getting onto the foil. I want you to be going across the wind, back the other way, but keeping your foil down. Now the way you want to keep your foil down is you need to be leaning a lot of your weight onto your front leg, burying that foil, keeping the airplane down on the runway. You do not want it to take off. And after you've done that 2 or 3 times, I know maybe you might want to be turning around at the beach at the other end, or doing a little jibe, or you might be falling in and climbing back on. That doesn't really matter. We're just focusing on you getting back and forth, and ideally staying in the same sort of location where you started off from. But focus on keeping the weight on the front of the foil board and keeping that foil planted down. Then maybe on your 4th or 5th run across the wind, I want you to try and stand neutral between your 2 legs. At this point, if you've got enough wind, if it's 15 to 20 knots, you're going to find the board is going to feel a little bit lighter under your feet, and it possibly will be going faster as well. The next thing you need to do is you need to start to lean back to get this foil initiated in the water. Now you are the airplane that's trying to take off, so you're leaning back on your back leg. The foil will start to initiate and you will start to climb up gently. Try and level the flight off, push your front leg down to bring your board back down to the water. So think of you as a giant skimming stone that you've just skimmed right across the pond. You want to be going up and down, but really only very small heights ideally. You are foiling, okay? As soon as you go a centimetre up onto the foil, you are foiling. So congratulations, you've started to fly. But if you can get that control up and down, you're going to give yourself a really good advantage when it comes to understanding what's going on under your feet. Now, if you've tried leaning back and you're not getting that lift, you feel like the board's bogging or slowing down, or it's just not working, it could be a couple things. It could be that you're not going fast enough. It could be there's not enough wind. So maybe look out for some darker patches of water where there's more wind or more gusts. You should be feeling the power in your wing. It should be quite firm and comfortable. The wing shouldn't feel quite light. It should feel quite locked in and really like it's trying to pull you. So you might find that you need more board speed or wind speed to help you get up on those first flights. Ideally, 15 to 20 knots. Obviously, if you're a bit heavier, you're going to want a bit more wind. That's what you're looking for, because you want to be able to get up, fly, and touch back down. Getting the hang of that slowly, or you feel that you're going up and touching down, we're then going to try and get yourself up, and we're going to try and regulate the height. So we're going to bring you back, leaning on your back leg. As soon as you get up in the air, then we're going to flatten off, try and keep our weight neutral between our front and back leg, and we are going to try and fly. We're going to try and fly across that water, keeping your foil initiated all the time without touching down on your board. Now, if you find you keep going up and you keep going up, you're going to have to lean more weight onto your front leg to bring the board down. And vice versa, if you find you're not going up enough, you're going to have to lean back a bit to get that foil to initiate, to give you more lift. Again, just think about that airplane going down that runway. It's flying up, it goes up, it levels off, and it's nice and happy. Starts going down, starts going up. That's all to do with your front and back leg. At this point, some of you might be going off into wind or going downwind. That's all to do with if you're not staying neutral and upright on the board. You want to be very upright on the board, opposed to your kite surfing, opposed to your windsurfing. Try and be right on top of the board, over the foil, focusing on the foil flight up and down. Now, we've taught many people with this technique, focusing on going out for the first few runs, do not fly. Then lean back a little bit, get that foil to initiate and drop back down again. Really gives you a good amount of confidence to understand what's going on with the foil, and it gives you a good confidence that you can get the foil down when you want it to come down, which is a really big thing. Because what happens when you first run, you first go out, it's amazing fun. It all goes quiet, you start to fly, oh, your heart starts going, and it's dramatic and fantastic. But if you're not concentrating and you don't flatten that foil off, you will breach and come right out of the water. Now, some of you have already been foiling and you've given it a go. You know it can be a pretty scary experience the first time you start to fly, but there's definitely some things that you can do to make your experience much more user-friendly and giving yourself a much more of a nicer entry to this whole foiling aspect. Tip 1 is definitely don't rush anything. Take your time, get used to feeling comfortable off the foil before you even get to go on the foil. Tip 2, find a nice flat location. You don't really want to be foiling in waves or out in open ocean if it's really rough. If you do go out in choppier water conditions, you might find that your foil might breach a lot more. What we mean by the word breaching is where the foil actually comes out of the water because the wave has dropped down below it. Breaching is a sort of exciting but again quite scary experience. You want to be riding with your foil comfortably in the water to stop it from breaching, and that's where winging in flatter water conditions does make it much easier. Wearing a helmet is great to gain confidence. As I said, it's pretty scary knowing that you've almost got a razor blade underneath your board. Having that helmet will give you that extra bit of confidence. When you're looking at wind strength, try and go out when there's enough wind but not too much. 15 to 20 knots is comfortable. If you're a little bit lighter, you could be looking at lighter winds, or if you're a little bit heavier, you might need a little bit more power. Enough so you can actually feel the weight or the pull in your wing. And if you can, look for a non-gusty patch of water. What I mean by that is if you're looking out, you're trying to look for a general colour across the whole of the water. If you see big dark patches and really light shiny patches, that's really gusty conditions, and it's going to make it much harder for when you're trying to get up and fly for the first time. Another top tip is foil size and setup. You want to be using something that generally is quite big. What I mean by that is with a really big front wing and with a relatively big stabilizer. The longer the fuselage, again, the easier it will be. The bigger all these components are, the easier you're going to find flying and the more control you're going to have when you are flying as well. Another question you always get is, what length mast do I go for? If you go for a really long mast, it will allow you to ride in more chop, but you are going to find that it is going to be harder to control if you are higher up onto the foil. So really something around a 70 centimeter is a good place to start. Now when it comes to boards as well, there's tons of boards out there, but really get yourself a board with enough float that you can find that's easy to stand on. If you're going to be using foot straps or not foot straps, that is up to you. If you're confident with foot straps, maybe you've come from a kite surfing or windsurfing background, then they really will help you be planted on the board in the correct position to start with. But if you're a bit scared of foot straps, then you might choose not to ride foot straps when you first start off. The other thing to think about with your board and your foil is where you place your foil on your foil box track underneath your board. At a general guide, I would always say start it at the back of the track. That's going to mean you're going to have to be going faster and you're going to have to basically trim your foil a little bit more to get yourself up and foiling. So when you first go out, you can focus on going back and forth across the wind and getting yourself to slowly come up on the foil, opposed to having it forward on the track. It's going to give you a bit more power, it's going to get you up in lighter winds or lower speeds, but you might find it's a little bit uncontrollable because you're not ready to bring yourself up onto the foil yet. Now the reason it's really important to know what's going on with your foil under the water is because everything you do from now on, whether you're foiling jibes, foiling tacks, surf riding on the foil, everything you do is to do with how you trim your board, how you trim that foil under your feet. Your foil has got to be flat the whole time. If you go into a jibe, your foil has got to be flat. If you go nose first or put weight on your front leg, you're going to go down. If you go weight on your back leg, you're going to go up. So when you go into your jibes, you're going to be focusing on keeping your foil flat. When you're going to surf riding, when you're doing a really big bottom turn on a fast wave, maybe you haven't even got a wing, you're going to be keeping your foil flat. So it's constantly thinking about how this foil is working under the water will help you become a better foiler much, much quicker. So we really hope you found this video useful and it helped you understand more about what's going on with your foil under your feet and getting the control of it when you start to fly. Hopefully we've given you loads to practice and think about next time you get on the water. Look out for the next video when we talk about getting flying and staying flying in those lighter winds. Remember, as always, if there's anything I've said you don't understand, or you have another question, or even you've got some other tips you'd like to share with us, please get them in the comment section below. If you're new to SUPboarder, make sure you check out all of the other great content on SUPboarder. We see winging as a great accessory alongside SUP, whether you're on or off the foil, which is why we're bringing you this Wing Foil series. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you join us for the other videos in our SUPboarder series really soon.